Man with Gareth McGuinness.
Welcome back to the channel. Owen, good to have you in with us tonight to talk about Liverpool's 2-1 victory against Newcastle. We're going to be looking at that game in particular. We're also going to fly through some of the other games at the weekend, which saw United come back from 2-0 down. They beat Forest 3-2, ones for Chelsea, Spurs, Man City, and also Fulham fought back by 10 men. They draw at Arsenal. We'll also be looking at the latest transfer news because there's some big stories breaking. But in the last 15 minutes, the big breaking news is away from transfer news, and it's that Virgil van Dijk has been charged with improper conduct, which might lead to a possible ban extension. Owen, give me your thoughts on that. It's just broke there in the last 15 minutes. What's your thoughts on it? Tell me your thoughts on the red card initially, and then what happened after.
Well, at the time, I was with you, so at the time I was saying to you that it wasn't a red card, but when I went back and looked at the highlights, and it definitely was a red card. And when I saw him mouthing to the referee refusing to come off a pitch, I sort of knew that he was going to get charged with some sort of improper conduct. So I would expect him to get at least a 2-game ban. So I would say he'll be back for the Brighton game.
So you think it'll be? He's obviously banned for 1 game now, but do you think it'll be an extra game ban?
I think so. It could be more than that, but I hope that it's only an extra game. But it could be a lengthy ban.
Do you think? Obviously, I think the red card. A lot of people were sort of torn at the time, but I think now we've seen more replays. People probably understand why it was red carded. Do you think that he should have just got off the pitch initially? Once the VAR check's done. Do you think, as Liverpool's captain, as a senior player, an experienced player, that he was not really going to gain anything by giving the referee a mouthful other than hurting himself and hurting Liverpool? Do you think, looking back now, I know it's heat of the moment, but do you think looking back now he'll regret not just walking off?
100%. So, as you say, as soon as the VAR checks it and clears the red card, then he should just get off the pitch, because he would know in his head, if I'm mouthing off to the referee, giving him abuse, I'm going to get banned more than I would have done with just the red card. So I think if Van Dijk's reflecting on it, he'll regret his actions.
Do you think that it's possibly been treated unfair here? That he's sort of like the first player this season to be. We've seen yellow cards for dissent, but do you think this is more about referees putting their mark down and Van Dijk's going to be punished because of that?
Well, at the start of the season, they were told dissent to the referees was going to be clamped down upon. So as a captain, he should know better than to give referees abuse, knowing that those are the new rules. So, of course, I'm a big Liverpool fan, and I never want to see our players get suspended or anything of the sort. But he could have expected nothing less from mouthing off to the referee.
I'm just looking at the Liverpool fixtures here because someone tells me that Brighton's further on down the line.
I think we have Aston Villa, Wolves, and Brighton.
I think that's after, I'll just double check here, because I think it's right. It's as you say, Villa, then Wolves, and then it is West Ham at home, Spurs away, and then Brighton away. So it's unlikely he's going to be banned for any length of time longer than the Wolves game. And if he was banned again, it will be West Ham. And I do believe after West Ham, before they would play Spurs, there will be a League Cup third round in there, which would still qualify as a domestic game. So I think worst case scenario, he'll be back for that Spurs game. But how big of a blow would this be if he was missing for the next, say, 2 games or 3 games?
Oh, it's a big blow, especially because we're down to the bare bones as it is. Like we have Matip and Gomez and the young fella Kwanzaa, but don't get me wrong, when Matip and Gomez came on the other day, I thought Gomez especially was very good, but I don't trust him over a long period without Van Dijk. We need either Konate or Van Dijk. I'm with one of them two, so I'm slightly concerned, to be honest, especially coming up against Aston Villa, because they have some tricky players like Diaby and Watkins and Dion Bailey. So I'm concerned.
I don't know if Callum's watching, but I was chatting to him about 5 months ago, and he was sort of saying that he thinks that Liverpool, have been hard done by here with this improper conduct. He doesn't believe that Van Dijk should be banned, and that they're making an example of him. And there's also that there's an agenda against Liverpool. You were speaking to me on Sunday, and you sort of said the same. You think that decisions are going against Liverpool, as you seen with the red card. The McAllister one as well the week before. So do you feel that there's an agenda against Liverpool? We're seeing teams like United getting favourable decisions. Liverpool maybe not so much at the moment. So where does that stand? Do you think it's more per refereeing, or do you think there is this like an agenda against Liverpool?
A bit of both. I think, like, you saw yourself, like Joel Linton made about 17 tackles and didn't get booked. So, and then Trent gets booked for dissent rightly, but he should have had a foul in the first place. So but it's going to happen to every team throughout the season. So it is hard to say whether some referees have an agenda against a certain team. But the people on VAR in the Newcastle game was the same people on VAR that sent McAllister off. So, like, how's that allowed when they've clearly got a decision wrong the week before? How can they be on a Liverpool game the week after?
It'll be interesting to see if some of these decisions continue. But let's talk about the game now. We've cleared up the Van Dijk thing.
Yep.
A great game. It was a great weekend of football.
Yep.
Really enjoyed a lot of games. And I think comparison to our seasons, this season's really started. It's been like 100 miles an hour. I know maybe some other teams ain't up to scratch, but thought that was a very good game on Sunday, and I was kind of thought the red card could have ruined it. But in the end, I think the red card made a game of it, and I'll kind of explain why in a wee minute. But great one. Owen, tell me your thoughts on the game. We'll speak about individuals and sort of some of the decisions in the game as well, but just on the overall, going to Newcastle, getting 3 points. Everyone was talking Newcastle up this season, after having such a good season last year. So, was it a fantastic result for Liverpool, considering as well they were down to 10 men?
Oh, 100%. Like I said to you before the game, I thought we were going to win, but not in them circumstances. And I thought once we went 1-0 down, and we were lucky not to be down to 10 men before Van Dijk got sent off. But once we went down to 10 men, I said to you at the time, obviously we were watching it together, I said that's game over. I didn't see a way back for us. But I actually think the substitutions that Eddie Howe made helped us more than they helped Newcastle. He brought Tonali off and he brought Gordon off, and Anthony Gordon had Trent on toast the whole game. So I think taking them two players off made a big impact.
Funny enough, Stefan mentioned that he thought Gordon was going to give Trent a hard time, and he really did. I was really impressed with Gordon. I thought he was.
Yeah, it was very good.
In the end, one man in particular, which we're going to speak about in a minute, did steal the show. But I thought Gordon was an hour candidate for man of the match. But obviously, what happened, there was a big player that came on off the bench and changed it. And we'll speak about him now. Because actually I noticed your profile picture there changing. So, and to be fair, to put it in the context, you've been a big advocate on Nunes. You've said that Liverpool fans need to stick with him. He's been ruled off too soon. He still scored a lot of goals last season. I think his misses were highlighted more than his goals. But he comes on, scores a fantastic first goal. The angle's against him. He puts it straight on against the post, and then you just kind of felt that the second one then he was never going to miss. And you would imagine that'll give him a lot of confidence. So, can these goals ignite his Liverpool career now?
100%. For me, he can't be dropped he can't not start on Sunday against Villa after those performances. And as I've said all along, I've believed in Nunez from the start. Yes, he's not the most composed in front of the goal, but we saw on Sunday that he can be. I think Nunez is a confidence player, and once he gets the goals, like I think he can bang in loads of goals. I would expect him to at least get 20 plus goals in all competitions if he can keep his confidence up to high, and if Klopp trusts him enough, they play him in most games.
It's funny because if you seen his celebrations, he was like, this was that celebrations where he was blocking out the noise. That sort of, do you think that it was also out to prove a point to Liverpool in a way, not just everybody else? Because Klopp had turned the other players before he turned to Nunez. It was like his last attack and sub they bring on. He had already brought on Jota. Diaz is playing over him. Gapco's playing over him. Salah. So he's well down the pecking order prior to these two goals. So do you think that he was sending a message to Klopp and Liverpool, not just everyone else, that he can be the man they lead Liverpool's line this season?
Of course. I don't know if you heard his interview after the game or heard the transcript from it. He said that he respects Klopp's decision, but it's up to him to prove him wrong and get his head in and training and work hard and prove that he's good enough for the team. And I think he's done that after the Newcastle game. Like last season, I said at the time last season, we Nunez running through for the first goal. I didn't think it was going in. I thought it was missing, or it was saving. The keeper was saving it. But with the second one, then I had no doubt that he was going to finish it. So I genuinely think Nunez could be a top player for Liverpool, and I think and now that his confidence up, I think we're going to see a different Nunes compared to last season.
Mm, I think I think it was a big moment for him and a big moment for Liverpool because it gives you that when people talk about their attack and depth, and if you can bring a player like Nunez on, I know you're saying he should start now, but even having that depth and where they lack in depth in all positions, they've got a wealth of depth up front and then in
Yeah,
attacking more areas. And Gary Neville made a great point after the game. I watched his podcast and he says that if he was a defender, he would rather play against Jota and Gakpo than play against Nunes because
because
Nunes has
Nunes
got that
doesn't stop.
pace and
He doesn't.
and
Yeah,
so like do you think that he's been overlooked a wee bit by Klopp, and maybe that's down to his output, but he does give Liverpool something else. He stretches defenses, and Newcastle never really looked in any trouble until he come on, and
yeah,
all of a sudden they give him something different to think about. So you're saying you don't think he should be dropped for the Villa game. You think he should start. Do
yeah.
you think he will start that game?
I think he will now after the two goals. Surely Klopp brought him on and scored two goals and thought, right, that's his confidence up now. Let's kick on from here. But to your point of him being overlooked, a lot of the thing Klopp was saying was about him counter pressing. He hasn't really got that yet. So it remains to be seen. Obviously, like we don't see him day in day out in the training pitch, so we don't know how good of a trainer he is. But like, I definitely think he should start now. I I am more confident with Nunez up front than I am with like Gakpo and Jota. Not even because of the goal scoring, because of what he offers the team.
Yeah. Look, it was a big moment in the game. Van Dijk being sent off, but at this particular time, Liverpool were under all sorts of pressure. They were 1-0 down, and Newcastle were on the front foot. Liverpool started quite well, but I think the goal rocked them.
Yeah,
And then Newcastle looked like they were going to go on and win the game, and Liverpool were, we know what Liverpool are like. They were never going to try and stay in the game. They were always going to try and get back and lead as quickly as possible, come up more players forward, and leave spaces for Newcastle in the counter attack. But do you think that red card almost made the game be different because Liverpool, they had to shore up at the back. They had to be, play with a low block and wait for their moments, and then moments never came later on in the game when Nunes come on. But do you think it worked against Newcastle in a way and helped Liverpool? I know it's easy to say that now they've won 2-1, but Newcastle weren't having that. The way they were ripping through Liverpool in the early parts of the game, that didn't really happen. You think about Almiron hitting the post. There was a few crosses into the box, but there wasn't really any time in the game after that. They were caught out in the break because they had so
yeah.
many players back defending well. Do you think it was, in a strange sort of way, it worked against Newcastle but helped Liverpool?
It could have done that because, as you say, we weren't as gung. Well, we were trying to get into the game, but we felt we were more solid at the back with 10 men, which feels strange to say, but we weren't as open. Maybe that's because of the way we were playing. Maybe we had a less attacker on the pitch because I think we took off Diaz to bring Gomez on, so maybe that had something to do with it. But as I said at the start, I think it was the substitutions of Tonali and Gordon coming off that really changed the game for us because after that, when they brought on Barnes and I think it was Longstaff, I wasn't really worried that they were going to cause us any problems, and that's the difference in quality. They can bring on Barnes, who is a good player, and then Longstaff, but when you bring on a player like Nunes, that's the difference in quality there, in my opinion.
You mentioned Newcastle, but do you think they were a bit too passive and they were taking some of their stronger players off? And Isak went off, Barnes or Gordon went off. He was probably their best player on the day.
Yeah,
Joelinton went off. They made a lot of changes. I think they made 5 subs in the end, and as you said, a lot of the players come on before they even come on. You were thinking they weren't going to do as much anyway because they haven't got as much quality, but it did show they were quite. I think they're stronger than they were last year, but still,
yeah.
when you compare them to Liverpool's substitutions, they didn't have didn't have the quality they bring on off the bench. But you think in a way they were just happy once it got this sort of the last 20 minutes. Omri not the post, but they probably thought they could probably see this game out 1-0, and in the end they were happy with 2 sucker punches that I think Eddie House is after the game they were kicking themselves. They didn't press on and won the game. I don't think that was his message, but I think sometimes it can be a player mentality thing where you're winning in a game and you don't want to overcome it. And I think sometimes a manager can struggle to change that. So,
Yeah.
And it was working to a certain extent because Liverpool didn't really have any chances. They scored their 2 chances in the end. So, do you think Newcastle will look back and regret that they didn't try and finish Liverpool off?
100%. Like I think, as you said at the start, before the red card, I was thinking, right, we're going to lose 2, 3, 4-0 here. They were just battering us from power to post, and Anthony Gordon was having a field day with Trent, and they, as you say, it could have been very different if that Amaran shot went on. But that was also a big moment in the game, and Allison made a world class save as well. So there's definitely subplots in the game, but I just think Newcastle sort of thought 1-0 up, we a man advantage. We can just pass about here, and we don't really have to attack. But that's the difference in quality. Obviously, Newcastle finished above us this season, but they have to learn how to kill teams off, or they're not going to be where they want to be, which is challenging for titles and constantly in the Champions League.
I think Gary Neville alluded to that. He thought that the subs, kind of like we were saying here, he thought the subs it showed there's still weaknesses in that squad. They have a very good starting 11, maybe one or two that can come on, but when he brought on the 5 players, it really showed. They don't really have a killer. Isak, I've spoke about. I'm a big fan of, but I thought he was pretty quiet after the red card. I can't think of too many things he was involved in. And as I said,
No.
do you think that shows Liverpool there's always ways they won games? And if they were to go 1-0 down away at Arsenal, let's not panic. Maybe just sit back a wee bit, soak up a bit of pressure, and we still have players that can hurt us. And sometimes Liverpool are guilty of chasing games when they're behind, and they can ultimately lead them losing 2 or 3-0. Do you think that's something Klopp will look at, or do you think he's very set in his ways that he'll just sort of, when it's 11 men, he'll not change? Or do you think he might have learned, well, maybe this is what we should do in big away games when it's tough, or maybe even when they're up 1-0? If it gets to the last 10 or 15 minutes, just maybe sit a wee bit deeper and wait for a counter-attack opportunity. Do you think there's much to be learned from Liverpool on Sunday's result?
100%. Like I just don't think Klopp will change his way. I just think that's the way he wants to play football, and we'll just outscore you, sort of thing. But I think we really need to learn how to keep clean sheets, because it's going to catch up to us at some point in the season, and it could have done on Sunday. It could have done against Bournemouth, and it could have done against Chelsea. So when we come up against a team like Man City, even Arsenal to a certain extent, if we go 1-0 down there, it's going to be more difficult to come back even with 11 men. So, and we have a world-class keeper who deserves to be more protected. So that's why, again, I'm hoping in the next, 4 or 5 days of the window that we bring in.
Well, we're not far off being 72 hours out now. I think we've got 3 full days left if you count the 11 o'clock night. So, and we will speak about transfers later on. Hey, another big talking point in the game was if Liverpool should have done 9 men. Maybe the first yellow card was harsh, but I think by the new rules, he can't really argue. But I did see Darren McGallagher. He thought that the referee made a run for his own back here. One, because as you pointed right at the start of the show, that he was actually fouled first. He didn't get the foul, and then he was frustrated. But it was a foul, and should have went the other way. And he could have, and as Darren McGallagher rightly pointed out, Trent could just say he was throwing the ball back onto the pitch for the player to take the free kick. He could argue that, even though we probably know he wasn't going to do that. But in his defence, that would be a standing argument. He just threw it onto the pitch. He did it forcefully, but he still threw it back on. It wasn't as if he kicked it into the crowd or threw it out. So there was also that as well, which the referee didn't factor in. I think all in all, the referee had quite a poor game. I thought he got the big decision with Van Dijk right, but I think with this one, he made a run for his own back. And I think, as you said, a lot of stuff in the game was inconsistent. Joelinton, how he survived not getting the yellow card, made numerous tactical fouls, and he was let away with it. But just give me your thoughts on the Trent situation, and obviously the second yellow card. The second yellow card it never was, and I think no one could argue that it was blatant. And he probably should have had a second yellow. But just talk me through the first yellow card and what you think should have happened.
Well, as I said at the start, it was a foul for us. So we should have had the free kick. So Trent was probably frustrated, but in his head, he should know throwing the ball away or any sort of dissent is going to get you a yellow card. And I'm not going to lie, when he made that foul, I said at the time, he should be hooked at halftime. So I was surprised that he lasted the full game. I don't think he would have if Van Dijk stayed on the pitch, but I think he was lucky they did not get a second yellow card. But I've also seen highlights of the game where Newcastle players are asking for yellow cards, kicking the ball away, giving off the referee, and they didn't get booked. And it's not just a Liverpool thing; it's going to happen to other teams. All we want as football fans is consistency from the referees, and we're not getting that in these early weeks of the season.
There's a lot of left to be desired by these referees. The month Look, another talking point from the game was both benches' behaviour. We've seen Klopp numerous times berating the fourth official. We've seen Eddie Howe berating the fourth official over the Trent situation. So in a way, do you think, and we've seen Van Dijk give the referee a mouthful, do you think in a way that the managers and the players have kind of brought this dissent rule on themselves? Because, it seems as almost as if because they think, they're top managers and top players, they can kind of do what they want and say what they want.
Yeah.
So do you think in a way the FA and FIFA, bringing these new rules in, that it's their own fault in a way?
It's hard to say because, like, in a big game like that, there is going to be incidents. Like, and I think there was incidents last season too in the game between Liverpool and Newcastle at Anfield. I think there's a bit of bad blood there between the two sets of coaches.
Klopp got his own back with Jason Tundle, I think.
Hi. Oh, that Jason Tundle boy winds me up. He thinks he is the manager, but I actually seen that picture of the shoes thing. Apparently that's fake. Apparently he didn't do that.
Right.
But
We'll have to see.
But I think they have to take into account too. Yes, you can't berate the officials. I don't agree with that, of course, but I think the officials have to take into account the game and the significance of the game, and there's going to be tensions in big games. Like, so, for example, like when Liverpool play Man United, there's going to be arguments, there's going to be fouls, and they have to take that into account as well.
You think they should have maybe just realise the type of game run and let things happen as they would? No, I agree. I think there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. But as you've seen over the weekend, Marco Silva was booked for the third time, so therefore has a suspension for the night's cup game. We've seen, I think Arteta might have 2 bookings. Managers getting booked left, right, and centre. Do you think it's going to take
Klopp's was suspended one as well?
So do you think in a way that it's going to take managers getting sent off and players getting sent off for this almost to calm down and blow over? Because I think if, for example, Liverpool next week, right? Van Dijk's missing, but let's say he gets an extra game ban, which I think's the minimum punishment. Let's say he's missing for Wolves and Liverpool get beat by Wolves. That'll hurt Van Dijk, knowing that he should have been only missing for the Villa game. Do you think it's them kind of things that's going to make players, and if a manager's sent off, because you even see me Man City, I know he wasn't sent off, Guardiola, I know he was away having an operation, but the fact he wasn't there on the touchline, Man City looked to be off a wee bit. So it does make a difference when your manager's not on the touchline. Personally, I always thought that as a player too. You always want your manager on the sideline. And when I was coaching, and if I ever missed a game, I always felt responsible. So is that what it's going to take for these players and managers? They sort of understand they've got responsibilities.
You see it all the time, but like you sort of can't change the way they were brought up to play football as well. Like that's what I mean. There's far too many rule changes, and they're only human beings at the end of the day. Like they're not robots. They have emotions. So it's a hard topic to really make a good end of, because as I said, like you can't change emotions, and the players are always, as I was saying, like there's always going to be emotions in games, and things are going to happen that will set one bench off, and then the crowd will get riled up, which will also set something off.
And as you said, you don't want to take that out of the game too. You want that wee bit of fire, don't you?
You don't want, like I wouldn't want the Liverpool United game like just being we're all great friends. Like I want a bit of bite, and I don't want any player getting injured, and I don't want anything bad happening. But you want a bit of feistiness in your big games.
Yeah. We're going to talk about transfers later on, but since we're on the topic of Liverpool, I thought I'd throw this in. Owen, you've been talking about we need players in different areas. 3 days left now, roughly. You've got 3 full days and just over 4 hours. So 3 days and 4 hours time, the window will slam shut, as they say. So what do Liverpool need between now and Friday night?
New owners. But
that's not Christmas Day. You have to be realistic.
For me, the most important position is a centre back, but I don't think that's happening. I have a feeling I sent you a link to Watford and Didi today, which blew my mind. But then I sort of rationalised it and said he can play centre back. We were linked with Douglas Luiz this morning, so it seems to be midfield is our main.
I think we could be signing a one-legged man, and you would justify them signing it. So I think that's just the way you are.
If they're signing a one-legged man, they may as well get me in.
let's talk. Let's talk about the all weekend's games. Some big games over the weekend. Some great games, high scoring games. We'll start off with our favorite team, United. They were 2-0 down to Forest after 5 minutes, and
well, I was giving it the
my
big.
my group chats were going crazy, and everyone was laughing at United. But in the end, they fought back. They won by 3 goals to 2. Great comeback, Owen, or peppering over the cracks.
It's a great comeback, but they shouldn't be in that position against Forest at home.
They've got Arsenal away at the weekend. So that's going to be more of a test.
But then Arsenal haven't pulled up many trees either. I know they won their first two. I know they won their first 2 games, but I thought they were very firm, both of them. And from the highlights that I've seen from the Fulham game, I didn't think they were too impressive there. And they could have lost it in the last minute if Adama Traore knew how to shoot. So
it was a strange one because Arsenal, there was a lot of controversy in this game too. Seen Silva was booked, and again he'd be suspended now for having 3 yellow cards. He was unhappy. He was unhappy with the incident that led the Arsenal second goal. Again, it was probably a foul on Saka. Saka fouled Bassi. He dragged him down by the arm, but again, it's one of them ones where a lot had happened after, so the VAR's not going to go back and punish it. And I know you're not a fan of Paul Tierney, but he was under no obligations for the ball to be kicked out of play or stop the game because it wasn't a head injury. And in the end, Arsenal took advantage of it. Whether you like it or not, they played by the rules of the game. And then Fulham get a man sent off, and you're thinking, right, time to turn the TV off if you're a Spurs fan. But I kept it on anyway. And I got a nice wee surprise when I seen Paulinho, who you've sort of spoke about as you would be someone, if you were in charge of Liverpool, you'd be looking at. He was quite good in the game. They've done a bit of analysis on Match of the Day, Danny Murphy, on Paulinho's performance. He actually says, I think if he isn't playing, or Fulham don't get a draw, Arsenal would have beat them comfortably. So Fulham punish Arsenal in the end, and I think Arsenal, somewhere to Newcastle, were 2-1 up against 10 men, took players off. They made like a defensive substitution. Again, that changed the mentality on the team. Right, we're going to have what we hold. And they got punished by Per Fenton from a corner. So we're seeing teams spring results with 10 men. And again, I think it's just teams that are taking their foot off the pedal, letting these teams back in. But how big could them drop points be for Arsenal? I know it's very early in the season, but Fulham at home, I know they beat Everton, but they were very poor in that game. Brentford absolutely destroyed them last week. Fulham don't look anywhere near the level they were last season. And you'd expect Arsenal at home to be beating teams like Fulham. And as you see with Man City, they rarely, even when they're up against it, they always find a way to win. And that's the accusation. It's going to be against Arsenal now. Towards the back end of last season, when they weren't at it, they couldn't find a way to get over the line. So how costly could them points be?
I said to you on Sunday when we were watching the Man City game, when Rodri scored that goal, that's the difference between Arsenal and Man City. Man City don't drop these points to Sheffield United or Fulham or anything like that. So it's going to be costly. And I said to you too, after the Liverpool game, like, if we get a few more signings in, we could be up there as well. So I think the title is there to be won for a team. I don't think Man City are at their very best. So, but it will be costly for Arsenal because they have aspirations of winning the league, but they can't win the league when they're drawn 2-2 with Fulham at home, especially when they had a man advantage. So I would expect Arsenal fans to be very disappointed with that one.
One's for Chelsea, Spurs, Man City. Chelsea beat newcomers Luton 2-0. Pochettino gets his first one as Chelsea manager. Spurs won away at Bournemouth 2-0. And Man City, as we spoke about there, scored late by Sheffield United 2-1. So talk me through some of them games. Start off with Chelsea there, the Friday night football. It was pretty comfortable in the end of one, wasn't it?
I didn't watch the game myself. I just saw the highlights, but I sort of looked at it and thought Chelsea aren't going to be afraid of Luton, and Luton aren't going to do much against Chelsea. But from the highlights I did see, I thought Raheem Sterling was very good. I think he's been back to his best.
In all 3 games this season, he's looked very, very good. He looks back to his best, and Pochettino's quite good at getting the best out of players. So, how important could he be for Chelsea this season?
Oh, it could be very important, and I dislike the man for obvious reasons. But he's a very good footballer, and I think if Chelsea can get a tune out of him, they have a very good player on their hands.
Spurs, the renaissance under Ange Postecoglou continues. A comfortable 2-0 win, played some good football. They had a couple of scares, but I think game by game. They look to be getting a wee bit stronger at the back. They look to be a bit more structured. I think Van de Ven and Romero looks like it could be a really good partnership. Some of the young lads like Udogie looks very good. Basuma, Madison, and Sarr at midfield were very good for Spurs. They're still struggling up front for a striker, I think. Hopefully that can be addressed in the next few days. But what's Johnson's been like? We'll chat about that in a wee while. But just your thoughts on that game. Were you impressed with Spurs? 7 points out of 9. And they obviously play against Fulham in the cup tonight. But it's been largely a positive start.
It has, apart from the Brentford game, like where I thought I thought the keeper was a bit dodgy in the Brentford game, but I've been really my favorite player to watch from Spurs' point of view this season so far has been Basuma. I think he's been very good this season, and I said when the transfer happened to Madison, I wasn't too keen on it, but he sort of shut me up in these early weeks of the season. So I think from your point of view as a Spurs fan, you have plenty to look forward to, and you have the cup game tonight, which I hope Fulham won because it would be just funny. but
I think everybody's waiting for the Spurs slip they come. And again, I suppose Fulham away in the cup's going to be difficult. You expect maybe a more favourable draw, but I think in a way as well, that's what Spurs need. We've seen them too many times over the years. Taking League 1 or League 2 opposition or Championship opposition not seriously, and they end up getting stung. So I think in a way it lets Spurs get an hour game under their belts against decent opposition and a chance to improve. Man City, we spoke about a wee bit there. They won 2-1 away at Sheffield United. Haaland was having a bit of a stinker, but in the end he pops up with a big goal. And
that's what you expect.
Do you think that's the difference between Haaland and a lot of strikers? We've seen Richarlison, for example. After he missed that first one, his head went down. He lost confidence, lost belief. Whereas Haaland, even though he missed a penalty, he missed a couple of other chances. He stayed headstrong and he believed he would get another chance, and he ended up taking it. So, Man City, again, and Rodri, who everyone speaks about as a defensive midfielder, but he scored some big goals for Man City, and who knows, coming in the season, that could be a big goal. So, what did you think about that game, Haaland, Rodri, and maybe even Sheffield United? I thought Sheffield United did quite well, but in the end, Man City's quality told.
I was surprised that the Sheffield United goal wasn't chalked off because it was interfering with the keeper at the time, but with Man City, like, what is there to say that hasn't already been said? Like, they're the best team in the world by a country mile. I don't think they're at their very best, but they never are at the start of the season. They normally peak around Christmas time, after Christmas. But on Haaland and Rodri, like, Haaland's the best striker in world football. Like, he can miss chance after chance, but he's always going to get one. And Rodri as well. He's a horrible, horrible, horrible person to have as an opposition fan, but he always pops up with the big goals, as we've seen against Inter Milan in the Champions League final, and the winning goal on Sunday, which could prove big at the end of the season if they end up winning their 4th league title in a row.
Do you think the danger with a lot of these teams? I know Spurs and Liverpool, Arsenal have 7 points and they're not that far behind, but if they were to keep dropping points before Christmas, they all draw here, maybe lose a game here, and Man City kind of keep finding ways they won, that it could be over before it really starts and they could completely run away with this title. I know it's very early, but if they were to say be 4 points clear by the end of September, and then they were 6 points clear, and then all of a sudden if they're going to Christmas 9 points clear, we know their form in the second half of the season usually just gets better. So do you think it's vital that the teams chasing, the likes of Liverpool, Arsenal, United were talked as potential candidates as well? Them teams stay in there for as long as possible. Sorry?
Even Spurs at this point could have an eye on.
Well, I don't think Spurs will be thinking about that. But let's just say they keep winning. But I think for everyone in general, do you think it's important they don't fall too far behind?
They have to keep consistent, because Man City are just a winning machine and they'll hoover up. So it's like, but as in a Man City point of view, like, they'll be hoping, right, when these teams play each other, they're obviously going to take points off each other. So that's another advantage for them. But I go back to a few years.
And you think they've had a very favourable run of games this sort of season? You were saying to me.
Well, they haven't played anyone really, have they? Like, it's all teams you would expect them to beat. It'll be interesting when they come up against the likes of Liverpool.
Funny, I looked into that after you said that, and they don't play a top, so they don't play anyone. Well, if you count Newcastle, but the so-called top 6, they don't play their first game to October the 8th away to Arsenal.
That's what I said.
Teams
they'll always get an easy start.
If they beat all the teams up and pull in, it's going to make it very difficult for them other teams if they're 4 or 5 points clear, really.
It's always no matter what the point difference is, like it's always difficult against Man City. And even a few years ago, when we were chasing them for the title, it was like we were like 4 points clear at Christmas time the year they popped us on the final day, and I thought, right, that's us with the title. But they just always find a way to tap someone to the title. So it is going to be difficult. But I think the team best placed to challenge them as Arsenal, but I just think they're too strong for everyone at this current moment.
Look, a team in dire straits at the minute, Everton again, another weekend. And if you look at their start of the season, maybe Villa, maybe Villa away was tough, but Fulham at home, Wolves at home, 2-1-0 defeats. Obviously got battered away at Villa. You could possibly look at the Villa game and go, well, they weren't expected to get any points, but how big a blow is that? They not score a goal and not get any points from them first 3 games, especially the Wolves and Fulham home games, where really they had the better chances, and they couldn't put the ball in the net. I was speaking to an Everton fan actually, and he was saying to me that last season they were struggling to create chances, so that's a possible plus. But you can create all the chances in the world. If you can't put the ball in the net, it's irrelevant.
Yep. Well, they just signed that striker from Udinese. I'm not going to sit here and say I've ever seen him play, so I don't know. I don't know what his qualities are, what type of player he is. But Everton desperately need a goal scorer. It's imperative they get one because for the last 2 seasons now they've been down at the bottom, and it's going to catch up to them eventually, and they will go down. And this season I fully expect them to go down. It's a very big game.
How big's that game on Saturday for them away to Sheffield United? Now they're the only 2 teams that have played 3 games and have 0 points. I know Luton and Burnley have no points as well, but they've only played 2 games. So they've played 3 games and they're playing each other at the bottom of the table. How big is that? Especially for Everton. Sheffield United are tough to go down anyway. But Everton were kind of, everyone thought under Deitch they would still struggle, but they wouldn't get relegated. If they lose them first 4 games, especially the opposition involved, Wolves, Fulham, and Sheffield United being 3 of them 4 games. Do you think Dice comes under serious pressure if they lose this game, say 1-0, and they don't score again?
He will, but who comes in to replace him? Like there's not very many big managers available. I know Graham Potter's available, but would he want to come on and take a Everton team that's going to be fighting relegation? But I would. It might be early in the season, but I would go as far to say if Everton lose this game on Saturday, I don't see any way back for them, even at this early stage of the season. I think they lack so much quality. Like, I know they've brought in that striker and they have Jack Harrison who's injured and McNeil's injured, but I don't think that's enough quality to keep them in the league. And I'm not going to say I'll be devastated if they do go down, but it'll be sad for the Everton fans because they are a big club and they've never been relegated from the Premier League. And this new big shiny stadium that they're getting, it can't be playing championship football from an Everton point of view.
It's hard though as well. Like if they do go down, I don't think they're guaranteed to bounce back. They are a big club, but they're really struggling for money. I've seen the night that Fulham are in talks. They sign Iwobi. Now I'm not a massive fan of him, but he's kind of one of their better players. If they really lose him, that's more creativity and more goals out of the team. So
and they're already being investigated for financial breaches as well. So that's another thing hanging over their head. So it's not a good thing.
I mentioned the Iwobi there. The transfer window is reaching its climax. I think it can be very exciting, but equally a very frustrating time for fans.
I know which one I think I'm going to be at the end of Friday.
I think in a way, even Spurs and Liverpool have a decent starts to the season, but you can see with the fans they're not happy with what they have. They want an extra player or 2 to come on the positions that they need. Look, there was a credible source tonight reporting that Liverpool are back in talks for the Curry. Palace wants 70 million. What's that? Sorry,
I didn't even see that.
No, I just seen it there before. Come on, Callum screenshot it to me, and it's the same fella who reported the Salah talks with Saudi, so he seems to be pretty reliable. Now, the one thing I don't get here is Liverpool know the price, so I'm not sure. They can talk all they want. Maybe the talk is they maybe try and structure it. Where if they are going to pay the 70 million, how they're going to do it. Maybe pay so much now and then schedule it out over a few years. But do you think the Curry, if it was to get done, would be a massive gain for Liverpool? Do you think this is the type of player that they need?
Because I also seen that we weren't looking for. We apparently our search for a defensive midfielder was done. So if we do sign the Corey, it's a sort of shift. But I don't know if he can play sort of as a number eight. But I'm not
I
going to
think
say I
he's
see
more of
much
a.
of
I
him.
think he's more of a number six, isn't he?
Uh, I'm not going to say I see much of him last season. I know he got Palace's Player of the Year, but this is what annoys me about Liverpool and FSG. Why don't we go and get these players before they move to Palace and give them a chance? I know
Mm.
they're not proven, but the likes of Caicedo went for I think it was 4 million when he moved to Brighton. Why don't we go and get him then? And it's like, but if Palace won 70
I think it
million,
all comes back to
if
the structure again. I think since Liverpool have lost Michael Edwards, the whole transfer strategy at Liverpool's just completely shifted from being
yeah,
the best run team to being one of the worst. And I think
I
at the
think
minute they're desperate. I think Klopp knows especially. I think
Mhm.
this Van Dijk thing flags up. They're weak, in terms of squad depth. Apart from the
yeah,
attacking area, they're weak in midfield. They're weak. I think with Van Dijk now being out for possibly 2 or 3 games. If anything was to happen to Kanate's out. If anything was to happen to Gomez, you only have to draft a youth player on or play a midfielder in defence. So, and I think equally, if anything was to happen to Endo, I'm not sure who they would play in defensive midfield. So I think they
probably
really need to do
probably McAllister it would be. I would say.
exactly. And again, you're taking a player that's better in our position. They fill a gap. So I think
It's like square
Liverpool did
pegs
this.
and round holes, isn't it?
Liverpool tried to do this with the centre backs. Do you remember that year they
We had
during COVID as
Nat
well? It's
we had
almost like they
Nat
try to
Phillips
put
and Jordan Henderson at centre back.
it's almost like they try to put plasters over cuts, and eventually it'll just fall apart. So I think they really need to do something in the next few days. Otherwise, I think he's could be in for a very frustrating season because I think he's have got quality, but I think as he's in European football, and I don't care what anyone says. The longer you're in that competition, the more your squad will get tested. I'd expect
Oh,
Liverpool to
well,
make the latter stages of that, and then they'll have to play their strongest in that eventually. So, how many players do you think need to come on before Friday? Ideally,
uh, are you saying how many players I think will come on, or how many players that I
tell me
need?
how many you think you need, and then how many you think you'll get.
We need two. I think we'll get one.
And who do you think that'll be? Do you think it'll be a big signing like that, or do you think it'll be a loan?
No, I think we'll buy someone, but I think, as I said earlier, I think we'll get a midfielder. And if this boy who reported the Corey talks is reliable, then that must be who Klopp wants. But also on the centre back thing, I think Endo can play there at a push. So yeah, it's whether we want to put him there or not. I know
Beggars
it's not.
belief about fullback Liverpool are going to, have to, or we could be forced to do that where you're having to play players out of position again. I just don't.
Yeah.
I thought they learned their lessons from that. And as you've seen this weekend, if Arsenal's off it, you'd say Liverpool are in the best position to put it up to Man City. So there is an opportunity there to go for the title again. So I'm surprised they haven't attacked the market a bit more. Now this is made big news this week. Matthias Nunes is on strike now. Apparently, he says he's not being treated fairly. I mean, that's crazy coming from a footballer not being treated fairly. But as it stands, there's been no second bid from Man City. The first bid rejected was 47 million. Wolves are saying he won't leave for a penny less than 60 million. Where do you think this one will? Where do you think we'll end up with this one? Do you think the player will get his move, or do you think Man City will not come back on?
I think the fact that he's gone on strike, I think Man City will come back on, and I think Wolves just don't want that headache. We've seen already with Mitrovic, he went on strike at Fulham, and he eventually got his move to Saudi. So I think when a player downs tools, like it's better for all parties if he just gets his move.
And what do you think about him? Do you think he would improve Man City? Do you think he'll or be very much a squad player? Do you think he could? I think Simon Jordan rightly pointed this out in the radio that he could easily be the next Calvin Phillips, where if players aren't getting injured, he could very much be a big part player. But in the end, if he ends up with trophies at the end, I think some of these players are happy just to be
Yeah.
part of it. So, how do you see him settling if he goes to Man City?
He didn't. I know he was highly rated when he came to Wolves. We Liverpool actually looked at him before he came to Wolves, like we do with every bloody player who we end up don't sign. But I don't really rate him that highly. To be fair, like I was surprised that Man City targeted him. I know they wanted Lucas Paqueta, but it looks like that's going to be off the cards because we don't know what's going to happen. We has betting allegations, so it's a surprising move from Man City. But it's one of these things. Man City always find a way to improve players. It was the same when they signed Kovacic. I didn't really I didn't really understand why they went for a player like Kovacic, but hey, if you're going to work under any two managers that going to improve players, it's Klopp and Pep. So it's a big move for Nunez if he gets it.
Now another team making lit moves in the transfer market are Man United. They're being linked with moves
Yeah,
for
so
Pierre Emile
this is just
Hojberg,
funny to me.
and just tonight as well, they've been linked with Cucurella. And I'm hearing this could be a loan move. Do you think that's quite
Uh,
strange? Usually you always see one team, but we're seeing Liverpool are scratching around. Man City are desperate to get an midfielder. United are desperate to get a midfielder on, possibly a defender. That we're seeing players out of favour. Like you wouldn't have thought. I know he's not out of favour at Wolves, but Nunes wouldn't have been top of Man City's list. Hojbjerg's out of favour at Spurs. Cucurella's out of favour at Chelsea. So then players are available. So it's easier to do deals closer to the deadline for players that are available. But I just don't understand how Hojbjerg and Cucurella make United any stronger. Now, I think obviously they're bodies, but I don't think they're better than what they already have. So do you think we're just seeing a lot of teams now towards the end of the window are just desperate, and we're going to see more of this over the next few days?
it's panic buying. The Cucurella stuff started they break I think last night, and then I was just sitting before we came on and seeing that they made contact about a loan move. The Hojberg one really surprised me because I don't even think he starts at United.
Well, this is that. I think they're really short with Mount's injury. Ericsson's not the most reliable with injuries now. He's older. For some reason, he doesn't favour McTominay. I'm not sure if they're struggling to get him out, but if he stays, I think it's going to be very difficult to bring him back into the team because Ten Hag's made it quite clear he's not part of his plan. So I think there is room for Hojbjerg to play. But again, I'm not sure he makes them that much stronger unless he's on there to help, in big games, on there to help Casemiro because he's looked quite stretched against better opposition. Well, in saying that, even against Forest and Wolves have been getting at them. So maybe Ten Hag's thinking I need another six on beside Casemiro. But the fee Spurs want somewhere between 30 and 35 million. Do you think United would pay that for Hojbjerg? Now, we know they're desperate for a midfielder, but do you think I could see him moving?
I think. Well, Ange doesn't seem to favour him at Spurs. I know he's brought him on. They sort of see out games, but I think Hojbjerg. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was he not close to joining Atletico Madrid at the start of the window?
So, I think talks broke down over Atletico couldn't shift players out. They were trying to shift João Felix out, and they haven't got rid of him yet. They were trying to shift a lot. They try and make up room and obviously comply with the rules, but that's not been able to happen. So I think that move at the minute's off unless they can do something.
So
I think with the Hojbjerg one, Spurs are not desperate to sell him. I think Spurs are trying to actively push a lot of players out, but I think they're only going to let Hojbjerg go if the money's right. Because as you've seen, he can be quite useful. He can come on and see out games. But at the minute, he will only be a squad player at Spurs, and apparently he's told Spurs that he wants to start. So if a move comes up, he would like to leave, and he'll look at United. Whatever way you look at it, if he's going to be getting game time at United, they're in the Champions League, they're a bigger club than Spurs. All of a sudden, this looks even a better career move. So, do you think this will happen, or do you think it's just your sort of transfer deadline as we get there kind of talk?
It's a strange one. Because I seen United were looking for the boy from Fiorentina, Amrabat.
But I think there's trouble. I'm not sure what's happened there, but that's kind of gone quiet as well.
He's also gone on strike and refused to train, so it's a weird one. I do think United will get a 6 in, but whether it's Hojbjerg or not, I haven't really made my mind up on that one yet. It seems a strange move.
The Cucurella one seems to be moving closer. It's going to be a loan deal. I think United offered 2 million. Chelsea are holding out for 5 million. So I would imagine that's the only thing holding it up. I think Pochettino's made it quite clear Cucurella's not on his plans. Therefore, I don't think they really see him as a threat going to United. Strange because they paid a lot of money for him. But
was it 70 million?
65, 70 million. Does this just show you that Chelsea scattergun approach? They've had a shift Lukaku out on loan. These players that are on big wages, you're not going to sell a player for next to nothing that you've paid 60 million for the year before. So you're kind of hoping they go to a club on loan, do well, and then they come back and pay a fee. But does this just show you that there is massive disadvantages to going out and spending loads of players and possibly overpaying for players as well?
100%. Like you've seen, I know Pochettino have said he's not fully fit yet, but you've seen with Lavia, he's not even made the squad in the first 2 games that he's been available for. Cucurella's not made the squad. you seen the other day in a press conference, he was asked about Sar. He didn't even know who he was. So it's mad. Like, and I said before, like, what if these players like Mudryk hasn't pulled up any trees since he moved to Chelsea? Sterling was dodgy last season. Madueke's not been great. So, like, what happens if these players don't work out?
Well, I
They're
think
not
it's
going to
the
work.
problem. They're all on huge contracts, on
Yeah,
huge wages. Like no team was no. I'm not sure how many loans Lukaku's had, but he's going on loan to Roma now. He's been
yeah,
the Inter Milan. So it just seems like they're stuck with Lukaku because no one's going to pay. He's on £325,000 a week, so them wages as well. A team even I think Chelsea are having to pay half his wages just to get him to Roma. So again, they're not. It's to get him off. Sort of, he's a number out the door, but they're still having to pay him to go to Roma. So it does show you the drawbacks to these, spending crazy amounts of money. Spurs are on the lookout for an attacking player before the window, and it looks like Brennan Johnson is the top target. Forest, we're here, are prepared to settle for a fee of around 45 million. Um, Give me your thoughts on this one, Owen. Talented player, but do you think is he ready for a move to Spurs?
not as I don't know if he would start as a striker, but if I was a Spurs fan like yourself, I wouldn't be too confident about Johnson solving your goal scoring problems. Uh, and there must be a reason why Forest are willing to let him go because he's their he's their best player. He's a Forest fan. He's been there since his younger days, from what I've heard. And I don't know, it's a strange one. There's always been talks about him leaving, but as you seen, if Ange wants a player, then go get him because he seems to be able to get a tune out of players that you have at the minute.
It certainly looks like he's not really. I know Richarlison's been playing up there, but I think there's a good chance he might play Son up there if Richarlison's form doesn't pick up. And he's got a lot of wide players like Kulusevski, Solomon, Perisic, and Johnson comes in. He can kind of rotate them around, and he'd have Son still. There's also talk that Johnson can play through the middle as well at times. So I think he wants a very versatile interchanging front three and kind of we
Yeah.
piss. Because I think as well as Kulusevski done on Saturday, I think he wants a lot more pace. So I think you could see Solomon playing games and Johnson playing games and Son. You've got a really electric front three then. If them three are playing, I know Son's probably not the player he was, but he still does have a bit of pace. Now the crazy link of the day, I thought this was absolutely nuts. Is Bayern Munich are looking at Derek Dyer as a possible replacement for Pavard, who's going to Inter Milan. Now I'm not sure if Agent Kane's helping Spurs out here or if he just wants a pal in Germany because I cannot for the life of me see how Eric Dyer is qualified to play for Bayern Munich. Although I'm hearing it's more of a backup choice. He's got a year left in his contract, so he could possibly get him for next day nothing at Spurs. I think Spurs have made it pretty clear to Dyer that he's not on Ange's plans this season. So again, they might get him for a very low fee. Give me your thoughts on this one.
Um, it was sort of out of the blue. I don't know if you've seen this. Bayern were also linked with Scott McTominay as well. So they seem to be after the English.
I think with this lit in the window, players like McTominay, Dyer, we spoke about Cucurella, Hojberg, they aren't all first choice players for their club, and they're so it's going to be easy to negotiate with these clubs because if they're not part of the plans, they will be prepared to let them go. For example,
yeah.
I can't imagine how that Saudi Arabian team are going to be able to negotiate with Salah. He's Liverpool's best player. That's not going to happen. It's lit in the window. So players that are available are much easier to get this time of the transfer window closing. So do you think this is just an hour panic? Let's get some cover on and Dyer's available, so we'll get him for next day nothing.
It could be because Bayern centre backs are Upamecano and your man Kim Min Jae, so he's not going to.
They've also got Delot there as well.
I forgot about him. He's not going to displace any of them, so it could be just a cover signing if when Pavard eventually moves to Inter.
And I think this comment this is about Dyer. It sets us up. Do you think we're on for a crazy end of this transfer window? It just seems like a lot of teams are still active. Usually this time of year, there's only usually a couple of clubs panicking, but it seems like I listened to Pochettino today. He said they're looking for more players. Spurs is looking for attackers. They would possibly need to get him on fielder and a defender. I'm hearing if Dyer or Hojberg leaves, they would want to replace them players as well. Liverpool seem to be on the lookout for a midfielder. Man City looking for a midfielder. And again, they're all looking for the similar type of player. So, we could see bidding wars as well. So it only takes one big player to move, I think, and everything domino effects from that. So go and describe what you think they may run for in the next 72 hours.
There's going to be lots of it's going to be lots of either fake news stories to get fans riled up, or there's going to be something to it. I, as a fan, like I love and hate transfer deadline day at the same time. I would love Liverpool. They have their business done by this point, so I don't have to like worry about who we're signing or who we're linked with or who's leaving. But it's going to be a mad 72 hours. Like I think we're going to see some surprise deals out of left field, and I'm worried that Liverpool could be one
Did
of
you
them.
see maybe Hojberg end up at Liverpool?
If that happens, I think I might just retire. but but then again, we signed Arthur Melo last season on loan, and that went brilliantly. So you never know what happens with Liverpool. But no, if I was to put my neck out on the line now for Liverpool, I think we're going to end up with Czech to Corey.
No, that's your sort of prediction then. That the biggest. Do you think that'll be the biggest transfer done? If obviously there's a lot of money been spent, but do you think between now and then that would be the 70 million? Can you see anybody else going above 70 million for a player this time of the year, or it's just impossible to rule anything out?
Well, with Chelsea floating about, you can never rule anything out. So, and we obviously we have the Saudis rolling about, so you never know. And even when our window closes in the Premier League and all the other leagues, the Saudi window's still open, so there could still be movement there, which scares me with Salah.
I don't think. I know that Saudi window's open, but I think it can only be available players that like the Spurs and United can shift players out between now and Friday. There's still that window to maybe send them to Saudi Arabia. Do you know what I'm going to do before we finish up? That's it. We're going to look ahead to the weekend's games, and we're going to ask you for some quick fire predictions. Just before we finish up, because it is 7:30, and the Spurs game will be kicking off in 15 minutes. Embarrassing, they say we're in the Carabao Cup second round. First time in 14 years, and I hope it's going to be our last time. Chelsea's playing tomorrow night, but any Premier League team that's not in Europe is playing tonight or tomorrow. Friday night football, Luton against West Ham. I'm just going to ask you for quick fire predictions in these games because we have about 2 minutes to go. So, Luton, West Ham.
West Ham.
West Ham. Sheffield United, Everton, 12:30 on Saturday.
Draw.
Brentford, Bournemouth, 3:00.
Brentford.
Burnley, Spurs, 3:00.
Burnley. No, Spurs.
Chelsea, Nottingham Forest, 3:00.
Nottingham Forest.
Ooh, big one away from home to Chelsea. Man City, Fulham, 3:00.
Man City.
Saturday, 5:30, Brighton, Newcastle.
Draw.
2:00, Crystal Palace, Wolves.
Draw.
Liverpool, Aston Villa, 2:00.
Liverpool.
And the big one on the weekend is going to be 4:30, Arsenal against Man United.
I'm going to go with Arsenal.
And that takes us up to the international break. Are you excited for that?
Yay.
We're going to be back later on in the week. I've got Callum and Meats on, and possibly Big Mark as well, my uncle. He could be coming on Thursday night. We're going to be looking ahead to the weekend's games. We're also going to be looking at the big stories heading on the deadline day. And providing it's a busy deadline day, we're going to have you back on Friday night to close the deadline. Keeping an eye on all them last minute moves.
I could be either very happy or very annoyed.
Well, that's it. I think you can just never predict what's going to happen on deadline day. So as I said, we're back on Thursday night, big show planned, and we're going to give the boys the power again. We're going to maybe we give them the power back out in July. June. I think it was June. I give them the power to go and sign players. So I'm going to give them the power to reconstruct their transfer deadline day for Liverpool to see what they can come up with. So that'll be quite interesting. Owen, thanks very much for coming on. Great to see you again. I'm sure you've a lot to think about over the next few days. And you'll be glued to your phone, see what's happening on Twitter.
No, it's here beside me.
And for anybody watching, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more content. Owen, thanks very much, mate, and I'll see you soon.
No more.